Hi, this is Namrata from Informatica GCS Support. Welcome to the architecture update for Informatica Product 360 version 10. In this video, let me give you a short and high-level overview on the biggest architectural changes of PIM version 10. If you watch this video, we assume that you are already familiar with Product 360 in previous versions. In this video, we will cover current existing architecture of version 8 and we will give overview of enhanced architecture in version 10. Also, discuss briefly about major changes in version 10 like full text search, which we have replaced with Elasticsearch in version 10, introduction of message queues to BPM, and also new features that are added to export and import functionalities. Please be noted, in this video, we are only going to talk about the new functionalities of version 10. However, we will have our follow-up videos released which explains each of these changes in more detail and its configuration. Have a short look at the existing architecture of version 8. You will find the modules of Product 360, the mandatory ones like the application server, as well as the optional ones like the supplier portal and the audit trail. Some of these modules communicate using synchronous REST calls. A few are decoupled by using a message queue. For example, the audit trail server reads from the message queue and persists the changes in the audit trail schema. This is one of the best examples for a decoupled module. On the other hand, Informatica BPM is integrated by synchronous REST calls. The Product 360 application server calls endpoints within the BPM server to start workflows. Those workflow instances will use the REST-based service API of Product 360 to execute DQ checks or put items in the workflow task. In the current model, the full text search is embedded with Apache Solr search engine, which uses the service API to read the index data. In order to safeguard the overall system and to better handle peak load scenarios and larger data volumes, we changed how these modules interact with the application server in version 10. So, here's the Product 360 version 10 architecture. In version 10, we not only provide a ton of new business features, but also address the most pressing architectural topics at hand. Let's start with the full text search. As you can see, we replaced the full text search module by a standard Elasticsearch server. We utilized the new multi-threaded export to create the index data and a specialized post-export step in handling the index creation within Elastic. So the main advantage is to improve index creation performance drastically and allows to use the delta export capabilities, which allows the user to see his data changes within minutes reflected in the full text search. So you will have a greater experience with respect to performance using a Elasticsearch server in version 10. Next we talk about Informatica BPM. As you see, it is now integrated using multiple message queues. In previous version, it was integrated by a synchronous REST calls. Informatica BPM will now consume as many messages as it can safely handle at a time. This prevents the system from an overload in BPM as the message queue is buffering those peaks. Workflow instances which we need to execute DQ check or service API request for items can communicate these requests also via message queues. The application server is the consumer of these requests and will process the messages as fast as he can without overloading the application server. A new server role has been introduced to be able to control which application server consumes and process messages from queues to allow a better scale out. So our follow-up video will discuss in detail about the overview and configuration of a new message queue framework. Well, one last thing, you might have recognized the new client on the left side called third-party clients. We adjusted our trigger framework within Product 360 so customers can actually configure into which message queue the trigger should send its event messages. You can configure not only the BPM message queue but multiple other ones. This way also third-party application can be informed about a trigger event in Product 360, which opens up many new integration possibilities. Next we talk about new enhancements about export. We introduced parallel export. This is one of the most important enhancements in version 10. It is now possible to export data in parallel in order to fully utilize the resources in the system and to speed up the export process. In older version, it was already possible to schedule export which run in parallel. But within one export, everything is processed sequentially. Especially in larger exports with hundreds of thousands of items, it could take quite a long time. With version 10, processing within an export is parallelized. For example, if we export 100,000 of items, the export will be split into chunks which will be loaded, processed, and finally written into a file. To support parallel export, some of the new functions have been introduced. Now it's also possible to select multiple supplier catalog in the data source instead of one. We also provided a new post-export step which will allow to do XSL transformation post-export step. Next, we introduced a new feature for sub-entity deletion on import. When deleting an import mapping, either for manual or hot folder import, sub-entities of an item, variant or product can be marked for explicit deletion. These sub-entities will be deleted during the import if they are not part of the import file. A few customers use custom code for deletion. It is now recommended to remove the customizing and use the new standard feature for sub-entity deletion of import. We also improved dashboard performance. Many web app users use dashboard as starting point for their daily work. Based on dashboard data, they take further actions. So these dashboards have to be responsive so that users are able to interact with the web application as soon as possible. Hence, we have introduced a new caching mechanism for overall faster data loading, giving a better user experience, mainly for bar chart, pie chart, and channel status. So you will see a better UI responsiveness and usability in version 10. Hope this video helped you to understand the new feature enhancement of PIM version 10. We will have our follow-up videos released very soon to explain each one of these details. We would also love to hear from you. Please write to us at supportvideos@informatica.com. Thank you for watching.